Welcome to Rhode Island. We're here in Prospect Heights Park at the top of the city overlooking the Providence skyline. Behind me here is Roger Williams, the founder of the state of Rhode Island, who came here in search of religious freedom. Here in southeastern New England, we'll get to visit different places around the city while we experience some fantastic culinary delights, and we'll even get to maybe even go down to the waterfront. We'll get to enjoy seafood, and later we'll get to visit an actual working farm in Rehoboth, Massachusetts, which is a right-to-farm community. We'll explain more about what a right-to-farm community is and how they came to be, especially here in non-rural areas. So let's make our way as we visit Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts. Welcome to Rehoboth, Massachusetts. This is a rural community halfway between Boston and Providence, Rhode Island. This is a right-to-farm community, one of the first in the country. Later, we'll visit an actual working farm here in Rehoboth, and we'll talk just a little bit more about what a right-to-farm community is. Today we'll be visiting Richard Lemieux and his farm, where we'll learn all about bees, beekeeping, and open pollination. So join me as we explore Rehoboth. We're going to join Richie Lemieux in his beautiful orchard, and we're going to learn all about the farm that he runs here in southeastern Massachusetts. I might have talked earlier about how Rehoboth is one of the very first charter right-to-farm communities. A right-to-farm community is a series of laws that were passed in the early 1980s to protect local farmers on small scales in communities where suburban sprawl was taking over. Part of the Right to Farm initiative is the enabling of farmers to do what they do without encroachment and protections from the neighbors. We're here with Richie Lemieux, and we're in his beautiful orchard. So first, Richie, tell us a little bit about the zone that we're in here, all the way up in southeastern Massachusetts, and what you've got growing.
Well, we're actually in Zone 7 also here.
Okay.
And before I decided to do the orchard, I did a lot of research on number one, the zone, number two, the soil conditions here. I sent a sample out to Mass Extension, and they told me what I needed to do, which we used to farm here years ago. So I've got about a foot of loam here with good drainage, so it's perfect for the orchard. I really didn't have to add any lime or anything, but they just told me what to do to maintain the level with the amount of trees I was going to plant. So then the next thing I had to decide was what kind of apples. And in order to do that, I took a look at what apples cross-pollinated well together. A lot of trees are self-pollinating, but when you cross-pollinate, you get a better crop. One Granny Smith, and the reason for the Granny Smith is that's the one that cross-pollinates the best with pretty much all of them. I had originally 8 trees. I'm down to 2. They were supposed to be dwarfs, but like I said, If those are dwarfs, I'm the Jolly Green Giant.
So these over here is peach trees, and it's interesting because we're in zone 7B, and my peach trees are probably about, I'd say, 3 weeks ahead of his. So I've got more leaves, and I've got peaches already started that are probably about the size of a thumb. So those definitely are not dwarf trees. And so while we're over here, maybe my lovely camera woman can pan along your fence here. So why do you have the fence up so high?
Well, we have a deer problem here.
Ah.
And believe me, they go for the easiest meal.
I'm sure that they do.
And they like fruit.
Have you lived on this farm, Richie?
Well, my father bought the land in 1948, and we moved here in 1949. And I've been here ever since. I bought the place from my mother in 1969.
Wow.
So this is the family homestead. It's always going to be. And, you know, my kids, they take part in what goes on here. And I've got a couple of grandsons. Of course, I restore antique tractors, and I've got a beautiful workshop there, and my grandsons are instrumental in getting some of that work done. So we do a lot.
Okay.
I belong to the local tractor club. We do a lot of parades and shows and stuff like that.
That's fantastic. So here at Richie's farm, he talked about cross-pollination between the trees, and we talked a little bit about that in our garden in Nashville, how we had to facilitate the two different trees to get our cross-pollination. But one of the things that we do in Nashville is we don't treat any of our lawn in our residential neighborhood with chemicals, because we want to make sure that we have pollination with all of the bees, the hummingbirds, and I hear you have bees to help facilitate with that too, Richie.
I do have bees. After the first year of the orchard, I was thinking, you know, I listened on the news about the bee problem, bees dying and this and that, and I thought, geez, you know, I think I'd like to go to bee school. So I was telling my grandson, he says, hey, Pop, you know, I'd like to do that. Let me know when you're going. So I contacted the local Bristol County Beekeepers Association, and they had a school set up. So we enrolled in that, and we went to bee school. It's the most fascinating thing I've ever done. Normally I keep 4 to 5 hives. Well, I've got shoulder problems because of my age, and last year I really struggled with taking care of them because of the weight of the supers and everything. So this year I'm down to 1. I'm going to get my shoulders fixed, then I'm going to go back at it. But the whole neighborhood has benefited from my bees. We're in a farming community. Everybody has gardens, everybody has flowers. And all the neighbors have told me they can't believe how much better their gardens, their flowers are.
Wow.
Just because of the bees. And of course, I've done well with the honey too.
Well, that's fantastic. Would that be something that maybe you could show us today?
I absolutely can.
So I don't know anything about bees, but I'm about to get a grade A education. So I'm very excited for all of us to learn a little bit about beekeeping and the whole process. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about how Richie keeps his bees and the process he goes through to maintain them. This is so exciting. We are here just outside of the bee enclosure. So Richie, if you'll just tell us about why you have the bee enclosure and exactly what you do here.
Well, we have pretty cold winters here, and the bees can take the cold, but what they can't take is the cold wind. And we're out in the middle of the field here. And so what I did is I put up this stockade fence enclosure around the beehives to protect them from the wind and the elements in the winter, and also to be a good neighbor, because, you know, all the neighbors, before I decided to do this, I talked to them and I told them that I was going to do it. And also, if you give them a bottle of honey here and there, that helps
That
also.
does
So
help.
they get a
And
benefit. It's the most exciting thing I've ever done. I mean, you can't imagine the bees. And I went to bee school and I learned a lot. But until you actually do it, it's you can't explain it. It's so fascinating. The bees, for example, the bees only they navigate through the sun.
Wow.
The sun moves 1 degree every 4 minutes. So when the bees go out, they know where the sun is, they know how long they're gone, and that's how they navigate back. If I wanted to move this beehive, the only way I can do it, I can't move it more than 3 feet or they won't find their way back.
Wow.
That's how tight
Yeah.
their navigation skills are.
Wow.
I either got to move it 3 feet or 3 miles. Then they'll reorientate themselves. So, plus the bees, the queen, the whole success of the hive revolves around the pheromone of the queen. The queen lays between 12 and 1,500 eggs a day. And the worker bees decide whether, if they don't like the queen, they can make another queen. The queen, when she lays an egg, it'll either be a fertile or non-fertile. The majority of them are fertile eggs, then there'll be worker bees, which are all female.
Sure.
If she lays a non-fertile egg, it'll become a drone. And when the eggs are laid, the worker bees, nurse bees, will feed them pheromone, feed them royal jelly for 3 days, then they'll cap it, and that'll become a worker bee. If they feed it royal jelly for 7 days, it'll become a queen. So that's how that works.
So if they decide they want a new queen and they want to overthrow the old one, what happens to the old queen when the new queen is fed the royal jelly?
They'll dispose of her.
Ah, dispose of her.
After she's born.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. The last thing you want to be is a drone. Because the drones, they eat, they go out and they fly every day and they look for a queen to breed.
Ah, okay.
Now, come September, October, the worker bees say, hey, we've been feeding these guys all summer and they don't contribute nothing. So we don't need them anymore. So the guard bees won't let them in the hive. So,
wow.
Because we ain't feeding them all winter
Right.
for nothing.
Right.
And it's hilarious because I can sit here and I can watch them. You can hear them screaming, trying to get back in. I don't blame them either.
Wow.
But when the bees are born, they have different tasks. They spend the first 7 to 10 days in the hive. There's nurse bees, there's housekeeping bees, there's undertaker bees that take the dead bees away, there's guard bees that guard the hive. Now, you would think, why do they need guard bees? Well, normally I have 3 or 4 hives here. So, I mean, why would you go to the market and buy groceries if you can go next door and steal them?
That's right.
So what they do is I sit on that bench a lot and watch the hives, and you can see them actually duking it out.
Wow.
They can tell what bees belong by the pheromone. Every queen has a different pheromone, and the whole harmony of the hive revolves around the pheromone of the queen.
So kind of like a fingerprint.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
And they know what bees belong where.
Wow.
And the guard bees will not accept other bees coming into the hive and stealing their stuff.
So if anybody that is watching this today or in the future would want to perhaps think about starting their own hive, what are the steps that you would go through to learn about it and actually begin by setting up a hive?
Well, most of your agricultural schools, a couple of times a year, will do one night a week bee school. And it's absolutely fascinating, and it'll give you more than enough information to get started.
Okay.
And there's a lot of people that have started without it. And I have people, I've been doing it for a while, so I have people come to me, and I consider myself what I would call a bee buddy. You
Okay.
know, so
Yeah.
if people call me up, if they got a problem with something, I'll tell them, come on down, I'll show you how to do it, or I'll go to them
Right.
and
Okay.
help them along. And then bee people are more than willing to help anybody.
That sounds a lot like my bread baking community.
There you
We're
go.
always looking to help share our sourdough discards and bake. So I think it's probably time that we suit up. What do you think? And
Let,
go in?
let's go for
All
it.
right. When we come back, we'll be suited up and Richie will show us exactly what to do.
We'll go with the program.
All right. Richie, tell us what you're doing now and what I am holding here.
Well, you have the smoker.
Okay.
And what the smoke does is it camouflages the pheromone, and it disorientates the bees. And what it does is it makes them go down into the hive.
Okay. That is amazing.
Now, let me first show you. This box and this box, they're supers. These are 10-inch. These are for the bees. This is where the queen lays all the eggs. This is where they store all their food for winter. This is where all the activity happens. This is where they pay rent. This is for us.
All right.
This is where the honey is. And this is what you would call a honey super. And the worker bees, we're going to pull a few of these frames out so you can see what's going on here.
All right. My goodness, look at that.
They're building all the cone.
Wow.
And you can see that. This is where the honey is going to be stored.
That's amazing.
So what we're going to do is we're going to put this back, and I'm going to remove this so you can actually get down in the...
Oh my goodness. About how many bees would you say are in this hive?
80 to 100,000.
Wow. There's more bees in here than the population of Rehoboth,
Oh,
times 10.
Absolutely. Now see, that's a larva, that's baby bees.
Wow, that is amazing.
Look at this is what you call a queen excluder.
Okay.
The queen can't pass through here, the worker bees can. And that allows them to go up to the honey supers and support that.
That is incredible. What's amazing to me is they all seem to know what their job is.
Well, they do. We're going to pull this out so you can see. Look at this.
That is amazing. Camera woman, are you able to zoom in on that?
This is where the queen lays all the eggs. These are all the worker bees.
That is incredible.
So, yeah.
I'm hoping that the sound can be picked up on the microphones because the frequency, the buzz of it all, when they talk about busy as a beehive, they certainly are busy. It's like
they're busy.
A whole city in there of workers and a government.
Okay,
seems to
now
be.
you can put some smoke on there.
Okay,
Don't be afraid.
How do I do that? Just wave it. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yep. And you see how that's driving them down? Now I'm going to put the queen excluder back. And this is what you call the inner cover.
All right.
We're going to put that back. And what I do is I put it on diagonal, then I twist it across to give the bees a chance to get out of the way.
Okay.
And now we're going to put the honey super back. So give a little bit of smoke across there. Okay.
It's fascinating. This is a very special day because it's not often at my advanced old age that I get to do something that I've never done before.
Okay, we got it here.
Would you say that beekeeping is an expensive hobby?
Well, to set up a hive, if you were starting from scratch, to buy all the boxes and the package, it's going to be, I'd say, around $450, $500.
Okay.
But over the years, I've accumulated,
Sure.
and for a new beekeeper, I kind of help them get going.
Right. Okay. Do I give it another
Give
shot?
it another shot. Just to move them away so I can put the cover on. Yeah, now we'll put our bricks back. I do that for the wind. The other thing that's important too is the bees need to have a water source.
Okay.
Now, bees can't swim. If you don't give them a water source, they'll be in your neighbor's pool.
Oh, okay.
And they don't swim. And they don't make life preservers for bees
All
yet.
right.
So what I do is I have them cookie sheets with 3/4 stone in it.
Okay.
So that, and I've got water here. So every day I put a little bit of water in there, and that's the water source for the bees. Now the bees, they keep the queen at 93 degrees year round.
Wow.
And
Okay.
what happens is they'll take water, they'll bring it in, and they'll flap their wings so the water evaporates, and that cools the hive if it gets over 93 degrees.
Wow.
And you know, it's kind of like when you get out of the shower, you feel cold because of the evaporation. That's how they cool the hive.
Amazing.
They know how to air condition the hive. In the winter, the bees, they cluster around the queen to keep her at 93 degrees. The colder it gets, the tighter they cluster. And what they do is they flap their wing muscles without moving their wings to generate heat. And that's how they keep warm in the winter. It's just amazing what they do, you know, and
Absolutely.
how they do it.
Absolutely.
It's just the most amazing thing I've ever done.
So, getting started in a setup, an initial investment of about $500 can provide a lifetime, really and truly, of more benefit. You get more out of it than the money that you put into it. So now that we've got everything closed back up again, tell us what we're going to learn about next.
Well, you know, you got to get this stuff off the frames and into bottles.
All right.
So we're going to move to the next phase. We're not going to do any extracting, but I am going to show you how it's done. But we are going to bottle today, because
Fantastic.
if you want to leave with honey, you're going to have to work.
We're ready to work. So
nothing's for free.
Nothing is for free. So we will come back and we'll be set up to go to the next phase that Richie's going to show us.
This here is what we consider an extractor. Normally this is full of honey. This will hold 4 pounds of honey. And what you do is you've got a hot knife you uncap it with. Then you put this thing in here, like so. You put 6 of them in. Then you turn it on, and it's centrifugal. You got a speed control on it. Then the honey comes out here, and what I do is I extract it into a 5-gallon bucket with a strainer to strain all the wax out. So once it goes into here, then it's ready to be bottled.
Okay, we're ready to begin bottling. You can see that I had to have a little bit of a learning curve here, because the first one, like a pancake, the first one's always the worst one. Now I know that honey is very, very viscous. So, look at that. Not a drop spilled on that one. We'll do one more, and then we'll come back and we'll have 1, maybe 2 cases filled. Now, one thing that we do is we use an awful lot of honey in our Nashville kitchen when we bake. We use it more than we use sugar, because it is a liquid and we don't have to worry about it dissolving. When we come back, we'll have another case done, and we'll finish up talking about what... Okay, so we are finishing up the last of the second case, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the different kinds of honey. I noticed that when I buy honey in the grocery store, I'll see clover honey, orange blossom honey. What makes different honey taste different, Rich?
Well, it depends on the season and what's blossoming. Around here, it's mostly flowers. In the spring, early in the spring, there's a lot of swamps out back. And there's skunk cabbage, there's all kinds of different things, but the bees know where to go. And local honey is better because it gets pollen from obviously local plants. And for people with allergies, it helps you build up an immunity to the pollen.
So this is beautiful because it's been heated to 100 degrees.
Right.
What happens if you have honey at home that crystallizes? Does honey ever go bad?
It never goes bad, but it does crystallize. And when it crystallizes, if you heat it up to about 100 and 105 degrees, you'll be okay. You don't want to go above that because it'll kill the antibacterial properties in the honey. So that's the last thing you want to do.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a fascinating process. Watching how the bees are kept, suiting up, getting a tour of where they live and all the differences between the different types of bees, straight through to the spinning process and then the bottling process. Rich, this has been so eye-opening and fantastic. So from the orchard to the pollination to the suiting up, all the way straight through, I can't tell you how much we've learned and how much we appreciate this, Rich.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because, like I said, beekeeping is the most fascinating thing I've ever done in my life. And, for people who say there isn't a God, you be around the bees and how can this happen if there isn't?
I 100% agree.
Well, one last piece of advice. For anybody who wants to learn about bees, look in your local area for a bee club or a bee school. And that is the best place to start.
Thank you so much, Rich. This has been such a learning experience, and I can't wait to come back and learn more maybe in the future the next time we're up this way.
Very good.
All right. Thanks, Rich.
I'll be up for it.
All right. Thank you.